What if I told you that a color most of us called meh for decades quietly staged a coup on our feeds? And now everything from your coffee to your cardigan answers to brown? Welcome to Unboxd Origins. I'm Howie, your resident science geek and accidental trivia sponge.
And I'm Wyatt. I ask the big questions. Sometimes philosophical, often skeptical, always curious.
Today, we're digging into how did Browncore take over fashion and social feeds? All right, let's rewind. If you ask a fashion historian to track Brown's social ascent, they'd start in the 1990s with neutrals, camel coats, leather boots, suede loafers. These were practical, not showy, the uniform of people who wanted to look subtly competent rather than theatrically flashy. In the 2000s, Brown still sat in the background, the dependable understudy to black, navy, and the seasonal red. But the first real pivot began when minimalism and neutral palettes made coolness into restraint. Think clean lines, quiet luxury, designers who valued craft over logo. Brown wasn't front row then, but it was quietly everywhere: trims, linings, the inside of a well-made bag. That low-key ubiquity planted a seed. The 2010s gave us another ingredient: lifestyle marketing. Brands learned to sell not just garments, but a mood, an aspirational life you could taste in photos. Meanwhile, influencers and editors started staging entire narratives. Mornings with oat milk lattes, secondhand furniture, terracotta pots. The visual language of lived in called for tones that felt tactile. Not clinical white, not high-gloss black, but something like warm wood, baked clay, and worn leather. Photo apps and presets followed, with filters that pushed highlights toward amber and midtones into cocoa, making everything look like a sun-bleached memory. That aesthetic drift gradually rebranded Brown from boring to comfortable and credible. Then came the secret weapon: algorithmic attention. Platforms like TikTok and Instagram reward repeatable, scroll-stopping patterns. Creators notice that a consistent color story, a feed where every frame harmonizes, increases watch time and, crucially, followers. Browncore wasn't just a stylistic choice, it was performance optimization. Creators who leaned into monochrome palettes found their videos stayed coherent when autoplayed next to each other. Retailers noticed too. Product pages and ad creatives adopted warmer photography so their items would sit better in the browse experience. When both attention engine and commerce players start favoring a look, that look proliferates fast. Retailers and designers also gave Brown new textures and contexts to make it feel modern. Think buttery leather, brushed suede, chunky knits, and corduroy in unexpected cuts, slip stresses in mocha, oversized blazers in espresso, platform Chelsea boots in chestnut. High fashion gave the nod, runway styling that matched leather with silk, label-free bags sculpted in coffee and caramel tones, and suddenly brown red is intentional rather than retro thrift. Thrift culture and sustainability narratives amplified the trend. Brown made secondhand look curated, not tired. You could be eco-conscious and effortlessly chic, and Brown provided the visual shorthand.
Aha! But here's the twist nobody tweets about. Brown's takeover didn't start with fashion or algorithms. It started inside our homes. Interior design went Brown first. The kitchen counters, the wood-paneled walls, the cork and terracotta accents. Decorators began building whole lifestyles in warm, tactile palettes, and influencers filmed themselves inside those spaces. We stopped seeing clothing in isolation. We saw outfits as part of a habitat. A sweater looked better when photographed in a brown-lit kitchen, because the furniture, the bread on the counter, the plant pots all sang in the same key. Fashion feeds adapted to match the rooms people were living in, not the other way around. The aesthetic had been rehearsed for years in domestic spaces before it conquered our profiles.
Right, that interior to wardrobe feedback loop is subtle but powerful. Add to that the cultural hunger for authenticity. Post-2016, people were tired of glossy staging and overt brand messaging. Brown reads as honest because it's associated with age, repair, and materiality. Scuffs and patina are features, not flaws. On screen, that translates to a higher perceived story value. A brown leather jacket suggests memory. A beige sweater looks like an heirloom. Creators leaned into narratives: thrift flip, my apartment aesthetic, what I wear to feel warm, and brown threaded through them all as the credible visual cue. Also, there's a social inclusivity angle that's easy to miss. As feeds diversified, photographers and stylists grew more mindful of skin tones and lighting. Warm, earthy palettes tend to flatter a wider range of complexions in natural light. They're less likely to wash people out than stark whites or jewel tones that can clash. That made brown approachable for creators of many backgrounds, broadening its adoption beyond a narrow fashion tribe. When a look travels across different communities and geography, it gets resilience. More creators can riff on it, and the hashtag becomes a cultural habit, not just a marketing campaign.
Aha! There's another overlooked contradiction. Brown connotes both accessibility and luxury at once. And that paradox is what made Browncore so sticky. Consider an artisanal bakery. Brown bread on a wooden board feels wholesome and accessible, but a hand-stitched bag in the same tone can scream bespoke and expensive. Brown carries an economy of meanings: thrift, earthiness, craft, maturity, heritage, depending on the context. The algorithm doesn't care about nuance. It amplifies patterns. So when creators realized they could toggle brown to read authentic or expensive with styling choices, the palette became a universal translator for many different brand stories.
That duality is crucial to commerce. Small creators used cinnamon-toned backdrops to sell affordable jewelry. Heritage brands used saddle brown campaigns to signal craftsmanship. The result? Brown became both democratized and aspirational simultaneously. And let's not forget seasonality. As cozy seasons roll in, warm tones outcompete the pastel summer palette for attention. Brands time drops in campaigns to align with that cyclical appetite, compounding momentum. Combine runway endorsement, interior-led staging, influencer strategy, algorithmic preference, and the social meaning of brown, and you've got a runaway aesthetic. But there are consequences. A monocultural feed can feel soothing, yes, but it can also suppress diversity of expression. When algorithms reward consistent palettes, creators may prioritize conformity over experimentation. There's also a sustainability paradox. Browncore boosted secondhand markets, but it also fueled new production of brown garments and decor, sometimes under the guise of timelessness. Finally, as soon as a look becomes dominant, countertrends form. Neon accents will return like clockwork. Fashion is a pendulum, not a permanent takeover.
Which brings me to a final aha. Browncore's spread is less about the intrinsic aesthetics of brown and more about our collective craving for coherence. In a chaotic information environment, humans and the platforms they use favor patterns. Brown provides a low-contrast, harmonious pattern that calms the eye and the mind. It's an aesthetic balm in a noisy market. So what seemed like a simple color movement is actually a behavioral adaptation. Creators and consumers converged on brown because it optimizes readability, relatability, and ultimately, retention. The aesthetic is a symptom of a culture trying to make sense of too much content.
So why does all of this matter? Because Browncore is a small case study in how culture, commerce, and technology co-create trends. A color becomes a language when enough people use it to tell consistent stories. And once a visual language exists, it shapes what people buy, what they show, and how they see themselves. Understanding that loop helps creators make smarter choices. Are you choosing brown because it suits your story, or because it's what the metrics want? There's power in choosing either, as long as you're intentional.
And from a broader viewpoint, it's a reminder that aesthetics encode values. Browncore speaks to a moment that prizes craft, domesticity, and a quieter kind of luxury. But it can also flatten nuance if left unexamined. The ethics of aesthetics matter. Whose stories are amplified when a look goes global? Who gets excluded by visual norms? Those are the questions to keep in mind as the next color cycle rolls through.
If you're a creator, try switching your palette deliberately. If you're a consumer, notice how a color nudges your perception of price, authenticity, and comfort. Browncore is not an accident. It's a feedback loop of taste, tech, and commerce that can teach us how trends form and how to navigate them with a little more awareness. Like, subscribe, and share if you want more deep dives into the weird, wonderful origins of everyday trends.
So, did brown take over because it's secretly glamorous, or because we all needed a warm filter for our lives? Either way, the question remains: how did Browncore take over fashion and social feeds?